Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa alihi al-Tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Welcome everybody to the fourth night of our program with Dr. Ali Al-Hilli, Knowing God Through Quarantine. This here. So iOS wanted to remind you that there's ongoing programs throughout the day with other speakers, as well as our renowned Dr. Ali Al-Hilli. And we have now, after today, we have 3 programs remaining, inshallah. So please do register on Zoom. There's only 100 places available, but you will get all the features, the polls, the Q&A, and the better user experience. So I do recommend you come onto Zoom rather than YouTube. Today, as usual, we will start the program within a minute, inshallah, and we will have Q&A at around 7:45. We may extend it depending on demand and how the discussion goes. We'll aim to finish by 8:15 p.m. latest. Remember to participate in the polls. Make sure you participate in the polls as soon as I announce it. I've given an additional option for not applicable or unsure, so that we can just get through everybody's question, everybody can answer, and then we move on to the next point without waiting too much. The Q&A option is great because you can see the questions and you can like them and push them up the list. So please do get involved. It's a nice way to get interactive with this session. I don't need to remind you too much. I think we have the same usual attendees as we've had, but you all know Dr. Al-Hilli. If you want a quick read of the slide there, you can remind yourself of the greatness, how out of the world our speaker is. Sorry to reuse that pun, I was running out of them. So yeah. Again, this survey, I will post the link. Let me remind you how important this survey is for us. It's not a matter of, we would like you to, it's not like something of small importance. So please do complete the survey. It will take you a minute, 2 minutes at most, but it will be very, very useful. I'm going to just post that on the chat now, inshallah. I'm trying to start the Facebook feed right now. I'm having slight technical challenges on this day. So if you give me 20 seconds to try that, bear with me. And it's not working very well today, unfortunately. So I will pass it over to our renowned speaker, Dr. Ali Al-Hilli. Welcome him with Allah salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you very much, Brother Hassan. أعوذ بالله من الشر الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم
صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, today we'll continue with our series of knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through quarantine. And as usual, inshallah, I will share my slides with you so that inshallah it can be very clear of what we're trying to say, and as well, inshallah, you can participate in the discussion, inshallah. So we'll do that right now. Okay. So if you were here yesterday, not here in my house, but logging in Zoom, you will have heard that we talked about how to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our relationship with our spouse. And we gave lots of examples, practical examples, also from the Quran. We talked about, the ayah 21 of chapter Ar-Rum. And we examined about the concept of sakina and how can we actually really get to, perfect this particular concept between a couple. We talked about, the equation of al-mawadda and rahma makes up a sakina, right? And then, so we concentrated on al-mawadda. How can we make sure that we have this particular concept between the couple during quarantine, of course, and also about al-rahma. And we delved into the two, combine the two together so that we can enrich this sakina between the couple, inshallah, through quarantine. And then we said, all right, you're facing each other 24/7, some people. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? Is this a curse or a blessing? Inshallah, it's a blessing. We'll pray, inshallah, it's a blessing. But of course, there's going to be some friction sometimes. It's okay if there is some friction sometimes. Give space for each other. And we also went through an exercise, inshallah, which I will say at the end of today, an exercise along with what we're going to talk about today, that I need everyone to come back with some stuff next week, inshallah, when we reconvene. Right. So today, inshallah, we're going to go through the same route of knowing Allah through relationships, but this time through our children. You see, this talk, my brothers and sisters, is not the typical parenting talk. Okay. I'm not going to talk about how we should parent, although there might be certain elements where I will speak certain things that might help in terms of parenting, but I'm going to flip it around a bit, right? And I'm going to say how we can learn from our kids, not how we can parent our kids, but how can we pick up things from our kids? What can our kids teach us that can get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And it's powerful. It's really, really powerful. And again, it goes back to the concept of knowing more about the self to get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes? And so, inshallah, with your permission, we'll start this particular concept of knowing ourselves through our kids and ultimately knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, before I start this, I was quite interested to, you always hear these particular verses in the Holy Quran that talk about al-mal wal-banun zinatul hayatud dunya. They talk about money and equating money, finances with children, right? And it says that they are adornments in this world. They're sort of entertainments of this world, right? They're the materialistic stuff of this world, right? And in this particular verse, chapter 18, verse 46, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yes, al-mal wal-banun zinatul hayatud dunya. And then he says, wal-baqiyatu salihat, right? But the enduring good deeds, everything is khayrun inda rabbika thawaban wa khayrun amala. Better to your Lord for reward and better for one's hope. So all other good things are good for you, right? But the zina of this hayat, all right, hayatud dunya, the zina of this life is money, and of course, it's what it says, it's children, right? So when we come to money, it's obvious, right? When you come to money, you say, all right, so money can actually make me really sort of focus on materialistic life of my life. Always work so hard to get more money so I can live a better life, and there's nothing wrong with that. I keep on focusing about money. I keep on thinking about money. I keep on checking my balance on my phone, right? How many of us keep on checking our balances on our phone? Is it gone up? Is it gone down? How much of this can I put in the savings? How much can I put that? So it's actually engaging our life quite a lot. And what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here is that it's an adornment. It's a zina. Right? And it perhaps takes you sometimes away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if done quite repetitively and too many times. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here that it is in fact making your soul a bit immaturing your soul, so to speak, and it goes against our purpose in this life. But what's also interesting is also the concept of bil-banun. And once you sort of think about this, you think, all right, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take care of our kids. He says, look, I want you to parent well. I want you to take care of your kids. I want you to show them the right path, the path of Allah al-Wahdaniyya, the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, path of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, and his Ahl al-Bayt. However, I don't want you to be fixated with your kids. This is so important. I know there are families, there are parents who are fixated with their kids. That doesn't mean you shouldn't love them. Of course you should love them. But you care about them so much, right, that you forget yourself. You forget your iman with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in every single thing that happens to them. So for example, they get a bit of an illness, that's it, your life is just finished, right? You get so engraved with this particular issue that you forget your salah, you forget concentrating in your salah, you forget getting, doing the things that get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on a daily basis, right? So we go to the next verse, right, which talks about similar things. It says, وَعْلَمُوا in chapter 8, verse 28. It says, وَعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا أَمْوَالُكُمْ, again, finances, your money, your wealth, right, your properties. وَأَوْلَادُكُمْ fitna. This time it uses another word, right? It doesn't say zina, it says fitna. And in this particular verse, the interpretation, the exegesis of this particular word, fitna, is a trial, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that once you get money and children, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you through a trial. So for example, in terms of money, he gives you some sort of a new job, which gives you a high amount of money. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to be fixated with a lot of this money and you forget Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you try to help the needy or get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through this money? And of course, awladukum, you have 2, 3, 4 children, and with these children being ill, perhaps going through calamities of trials, etc., would you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you start blaming Allah? Why is it me that my kid has this rare illness, for example? Why is it that my kid is not performing well at school, right? And all the others are performing. Why has this? And you keep on asking all the why questions rather than trying to solve this particular issue or trying to accept this trial from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you get closer to Allah by being patient, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, yes, money and children, they can take you away from me. Allah is saying, take you away from me, right? I want you, if you have good amount of money and if you have children, right, I want you to use them to get closer to me, not the opposite. And this is exactly what we're going to try to do today. Not the money, we're going to try to use the kids, children, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than getting away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather than making it real zina, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ends with this particular verse. He says, وَأَنَّ اللَّهَ عِنْدَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ. So if you succeed in trying to make sure that your children is not fitna, in terms of they are a zina, they are a fitna, but trying to make sure that your children do not take over your life, right? And you do not worry so much about your kids, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you great reward. Ajrun azim. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So
the lesson we can take from these two particular verses, and there are many others which talk about amwalukum wa awladukum, right? That we shouldn't materialize our children, right? We shouldn't try to use the concept of having kids, right, as something that is worldly, right? Rather, we should take the concept of having kids as them reminding us of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and us giving them gifts of lessons and bringing them up in the best possible way so that they can get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. See, can you see that? So we can get closer to Allah and they can get opportunity to get closer to Allah. That's our role as parents, right? We can learn from them. They can give us lessons that how we can get closer to Allah, and we help them how to get closer to Allah by parenting, right? But we shouldn't use them to as form of material things, as zina, right? And that's the fundamental point here. We shouldn't worry too much about them, right? Some of us worry too much, and inshallah, I'll try to give a bit of that particular concept later on. Yes, and as we said, always allow them to get closer to God, to get you closer to Allah, not away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, inshallah, we're going to start with around 6 points into how our children can get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how our children can teach us about ourselves, right? And inshallah, it can be beneficial during especially this quarantine time where we have more time with our kids. Number one is that your children are a reflection of you. They're a mirror image of you, right? And honestly, I've seen that with my kids, right? With my wife and I, sometimes if we get a bit upset, we get a bit annoyed, we get a bit anxious, we see that in our kids. They're a reflection of us. And they can teach us so much about ourselves, because it's like going in the mirror and seeing yourself and you think, yeah, is my glasses all right here? My beard okay? And things like that. I can see that from the mirror. When you look at your kids, they're a mirror, right? So they can teach you so much about yourself. So for example, anger, right? When you see your kids getting angry at a particular instance, you ask yourself this question: do I get angry when these particular occurrences occur? Right? So for example, if someone was to make fun of another individual, or try to say something that make a mockery of them, right? Do you get angry? Perhaps when that happens with the kids, they might get angry. Maybe they've learned from you. And there are certain things that you are subconscious of, right? That you don't think that they are picking, but they pick up so much from you, right? So this is something to really bear in mind. This is a related topic this is from C.A. Nelson, Neurons to Neighborhoods, year 2000. And what's important here, it tells you the first 5 years of your child's life, this is the time when your brain starts to develop, right? Remember, when your child is born, right, the brain hasn't developed fully. Only after the first 5 years, right, then the brain fully develops. And you can see here from this particular diagram, you can see here that the language, they develop after around 8 months, right? These are the months, and these are the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Sensory pathways, also again, the peak is around 4 months. We're all used to peaks now with the coronavirus and stuff. So yeah, this and there are certain other synapse formations. So this is the rate of synapse formations in the brain, where all your synapses are being for your children's synapses being formed in the first few months and also few years of their lives. So what does this mean related to what we're talking about? Well, this means that whatever you do with your kids at that particular first 5 years actually shapes the remainder of their life, right? In terms of their brain development. So in terms of their language, for example, how you speak to them, right? In terms of, for example, how their environment is. Is the environment spiritual? Is the environment, there's always the mention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your house, especially now during quarantine? Do we always mention Allah, or we don't? Or no, we always shout at our kids. We always show them our anger, our wrath at them, right? Yes, I know it's difficult. 24/7 with the kids now. There's no school, it's so difficult. I was like, when I was doing it, it was all like Play-Doh and coloring, and with the young one. And on one side I'm doing my son, on the other side I'm doing Play-Doh and things like that. And it was difficult, while my wife was quite ill, but alhamdulillah, now she took over the burden, which I'm very grateful for. But I know it is so difficult, right? But what we must do is become patient, and it's important that we make the surroundings spiritual. So when it's adhan time, we say switch off TV, no more homework, nothing, no Play-Doh, no coloring, no drawings, for goodness sake. Salah time, right? It's now Salah time, and then we can do certain other activities. Number 2 is patience. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you certain verses of the Holy Quran. I try to give as many verses of the Quran. I know, this is the holy month of Ramadan, and we've got to try to do this tadabbur we talked about previously on the verses of the Holy Quran. I'm going to go through chapter 46, verses 15, 16, and 17. And I invite you to later on go and do more tadabbur on these particular verses. So this is a verse that you might have heard before. This is talking about parenting. Yeah? وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ إِحْسَانًا. And we have enjoined upon man to his parents good treatment. Okay, you kids, you got to treat your parents very well. This is not the verse we're going to concentrate on. The verse 17. But I just wanted to build up to verse 17. حَمَلَتْهُ أُمُّهُ كُرْهًا وَوَضَعَتْهُ كُرْهًا وَحَمْلُهُ وَفِصَالُهُ 30 شهرا حتى إذا بلغ أشده وبلغ 40 سنة. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that his mother carried him with hardship and gave birth to him with hardship. And weaning period in 30 months. He grows until he reaches maturity and reaches 40 years. And inshallah, in a month time also, I will reach 40 years. Wish me a happy birthday. وَبَلَغَ 40 سَنَةً قَالَ رَبِّ أَوْزِعْنِي أَنْ أَشْكُرَ نِعْمَتَ. There's something about the age of 40, isn't it? Right? If you've passed that, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you. If you haven't, you will expect that you will say, Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura. It will be beautiful during the birthday time. You say, Qala Rabbi awzi'ni an ashkura ni'mataka allati an'amta alayya wa ala waliday. Right? When you say, oh Allah, enable me to be grateful for your favor, for you have bestowed upon me and my parents, right? The dua to the parents. وَأَنْ أَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَاهُ. And to work righteousness of which you will approve and make righteous for me, my offspring. وَأَعْمَلَ صَالِحًا تَرْضَاهُ وَأَصْلِحْ لِي فِي ذُرِّيَّتِي. Right? And 40, you're doing dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask him to do this sulh for righteous for my offspring, dhurriyati, inni tubtu ilayka, I have repented to you, and indeed I am from the Muslimin. So this is verse 15. And then verse 16 goes, أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ نَتَقَبَّلُ عَنْهُمْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about those individuals who are good. If there are kids listening to this, you must of course be good to your parents. Listen to your parents, especially during quarantine, all the time, but especially during now. Don't make us go crazy. أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ نَتَقَبَّلُ. Allah saying, I will accept their deeds. عَنْهُمْ أَحْسَنَ مَا عَمِلُوا وَنَتَجَاوَزُ عَنْ سَيِّئَاتِهِمْ. And I will overlook their mistakes. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, kids, if you're listening to this, Allah says it's okay if you make mistakes. I will forgive you, but you shouldn't repeat the mistakes. فِي أَصْحَابِ الْجَنَّةِ وَعَدَ الصِّدْقِ الَّذِي كَانُوا يُوعَدُونَ. And that is the promise of truth which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised. Right. Now we go into the next verse. And this is the verse that we want to talk a bit about, inshallah. وَالَّذِي قَالَ. This is now, the 15 says the good guy, the good child who will listen to his parents, who will do good with his parents. And the 16th verse, Allah says, I will give you so much good and I will forgive you if you've done wrong. Now 17 is the bad dude. You know the bad dude, the bad child? If you're a child listening to this, is this you? Inshallah, it's not you, right? وَالَّذِي قَالَ لِوَالِدَيْهِ. And the child, this individual who says to his parents, أُفٍّ لَكُمَا. You see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has described this which certain interpretations say is the dirt under your nails, right? This is a description. And this guy, this dude is saying to his parents, right? Sometimes we scream at our parents, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying even you shouldn't say, right? وَقَالَ وَالَّذِي قَالَ لِوَالِدَيْهِ أُفٍّ لَكُمَا. أتعدانني أن أخرج وقد خلت القرون من قبلي. So this is a conversation between a person, a child who's probably, is an adult, right? But is a child of two righteous parents who've tried so hard in their life, right? It's a bit like us, isn't it? We try so much to make sure our kids are brought up in the best possible way, so our kids are in the right path, right? But at the end, they couldn't do more than how much they have done. He says that he told them uffin lakuma, and he told them, look, why should I believe when all those people who have died, none of them have come back to life and said, look guys, it is true, right? It is true. You've got to really believe in this particular part. Why should I do that? But what's interesting here is that وَهُمَا يَسْتَغِيثَانِ اللَّهِ. And what did these righteous parents do? They went and prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? This is one of the things that, patience can help us. Sometimes our kids take us to really extreme levels like this particular person. Inshallah, none of our kids happen to be like this individual, right? But this is giving the extreme case. But sometimes our kids take us to a level where we become so impatient with them, right? But our children take us to that level so that they can teach us patience. Let's look at it positively, yeah? So that they can teach us patience. And patience is so difficult. When your kids are messing around in the living room, screaming, doing this, not tidying up, the last thing you want is me telling you gotta be patient, right? But it is a form of training. It's a form of training oneself to be patient, right? But also what we can learn from this is that we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like these two elderly parents who went to Allah, وَيَسْتَغِيثَانِ اللَّهِ. They went and called to Allah. He said, oh Allah, help us with this child. This child is like Ya'qub, how he went back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He had such bad kids, right? Most of them anyway, right? And the same thing with Nuh alayhi salam, right? And some other prophets as well. And so therefore, we go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And your child doesn't need to be bad for you to go back to Allah. They help us to get closer to Allah by going and praying for them, right? We pray, especially now during the holy month of Ramadan, where we are fasting just before iftar, just before you put the date into your mouth, remember your kids. However old they are, even if you don't have kids, even if you don't have a spouse, inshallah in the future you will have a spouse. Inshallah in the future you will have some kids. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you to help you to bring them up in the best possible way. So it's getting us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through that way. But what's interesting also in this particular verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says this conversation where they went and prayed to Allah. They said, oh Allah, help us. But then they reached a stage where they said, waylaka amin, woe to you, believe. And that tone had a bit of an anger to it. Their patience, yes, they were so patient throughout all these years, but their patience came probably to an end there. And they told him, waylaka amin, inna wa'dallahi haqq. Indeed, the promise of Allah is truth. What's wrong with you? Right? And then unfortunately, he did not believe this individual. فَيَقُولُ مَا هَذَا إِلَّا أَسَاطِيرُ الْأَوَّلِينَ. He said, this is just, but not the legends of former people. I don't really believe. These are tales. I don't really believe in these. Right. So, inshallah, that was something that we can learn from our kids. Number 3 is forgive and forget. My God, it happened to me today. Let me share this with you. So today, while I was preparing for this talk, right, my 4-year-old daughter came upstairs, right, and she said, she sometimes comes to me and tries to play with me and stuff, but unfortunately, I didn't have the time. Yeah, you remember we're parents. We never have time for our kids. So I didn't have the time because 7 o'clock was approaching. I was trying to finish this lecture, and she went, Baba, let's play with this. And I said, okay, what should we play? And so we played for a bit. You know, she came and the things, and then she said, okay, Baba, so this is the plan, yeah. And she gave me a plan of how she wants. And also a bit later, before that, she went and she said, okay, Baba, I want to play animals with you. Sometimes she acts like an animal. I have to guess which animal that is. And I said, it was so disappointed, so sad. I said, Baba, I really don't have time for this. I've got a lecture later on. I swear to you, what happened was she looked at me, she turned, and then she just stormed outside. And I said, Sarah, Susu, she's name is Susu. Susu, come back. She didn't come back. However, honestly, I think half an hour later, she came back and said, Baba, Amina, which is my elder daughter, she's making pizza. What do you want in your pizza? She forgave me and she forgot. Honestly, I think she forgot, right? And a wonderful characteristic of that, you know, if it was an adult, if I blank them and say, no, and I blank them, they will probably never forgive and never forget, right? But my daughter, she forgot about it and forgave it. It's gone. It was the past. It's okay. It's gone. Now, what do you want in your pizza for iftar today? Right? It's amazing. Honestly, if all adults, we learn from our kids just to forgive and forget, will be an amazing community. So much toxicity in our communities, honestly. Why this person said this to me, between families. I hear between families, the mother is upset from the son is upset from the mother is upset, the father is upset from the mother, because they said this to them, and because of they said, guys, let's remove this dark black spot in our hearts, this hatred towards one another, right? Because honestly, it's not worth it, right? Just try to clean your hearts from all the hatred, all the hate and envy and the jealousy that we seem to have for each other. And it brings absolute diseases to, you talk about coronavirus, that's not the biggest disease. Honestly, coronavirus will go. But the biggest diseases we have in our community is that we do not forgive and forget. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Ghafurur Rahim. He chose these two words, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, when starting every single chapter of the Quran, right? To describe him, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, beneficent, the merciful, but I do not forgive. I do not forget. Yes? And I think, you see, here, this is an interesting paper. The reference is there. They actually say, right? They actually say that the present study revealed that, and let me try to get the pen out so I can show you guys, not this one. Right, so he says here, from right here, the present study reveals that right here, right? Forgiveness among peers was indeed associated with enhanced psychological well-being, right? So what they did was they looked at children and they found that children who forgive, they've actually enhances their psychological well-being, right? It's beautiful, isn't it? Because it shows that as adults, if we forgive as well, it helps in our psychological well-being, right? And it's part of actually, you know, growing up as a child. They just forgive and forget. And subhanallah, their psychological well-being is enhanced, right? Imagine if we learn from our kids that we've got to also forgive and forget. Right. And inshallah, we'll go back. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma
salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Right. So, number 4 is, honestly, children know how to be in the now, don't they? You know, they know exactly how to be in the present moment, right? I see that with my kids. You know, while they sort of have a fight between each other. You know, if you have more than one child, you know what I'm talking about. You know, sometimes they fight, sometimes go. But honestly, after a while, you find them playing again with each other, because they've just, like, it goes back to our previous point, but then they become in the moment as well, isn't it? Where they fought with each other, but then they realize that, yeah, let me forget about the past. Now I am in the present moment, right? What is important is right now, right? And it doesn't matter about what happened before and what happens after. It's important about what happens right now. And it's so important we can learn from this, right? We can learn from our children to be in the present moment. I can't emphasize this enough. And by the way, with them being in the present moment, it helps in their mental health as well. And it helps us in our mental health. Why does it matter about what happened before? Why does it matter about what's going to happen in the future? I can plan for the future, but what's important for me is right in the present moment. And we can really learn from our kids this particular issue. And importantly, it actually makes them happy, right? I saw some conflicting reports on the internet that children laugh more than adults per day on average. Some people refuted it. Some people said, no, it does. Nevertheless, they probably do. You know, they probably smile more than us, right? Per day, right? It makes them absolute happy. And they're delightful in small things, don't they? All right. Once they are in the present moment, once you give them these small things, you know, they become happy. Yes, they might forget about it afterwards. You know, if you give them a toy, they play with it and then throw it away. But still, they were in the present moment. And we can take so much from that. I think I've got to move faster. So the children also, number 5, what we can learn from them is that children express their feelings very easily, don't they? You know, and this is a main message to men, right? I think I said some things about this yesterday as well, is that we men cannot express our feelings, right? If I am sad, for those Iraqis, I cannot speak to my wife about this, right? Or I can't speak to my friends about this. It's embarrassing. That's what aib is. It's embarrassing, right? I can't tell my siblings maybe, or my brother or my father or whatever, right, about my feelings, because I'm a man, right? And that's why suicide rate is higher in men. That is why depression, men also get at a higher rate. So therefore, we cannot express ourselves. And of course, women as well, some women also suffer from this. And children, they express themselves so nicely, right? And when you come and tell them, okay, what's wrong? You know, maybe a bit at the start, they might become hesitant. But if you sort of push them a bit, they say, yeah, I'm sad. You know, I have one, you know, my son sometimes comes and tells me I'm sad. And I say, okay, what is the problem? And he explains it. Sometimes at night he's a bit sad. And I tell him why. And he starts to explain his emotions, right? But I wonder, when he grows up and becomes a man, would he be still confident in expressing his emotions, right? And keeping your emotions inside is not a good thing. It causes mental health problems, and it's really not good for your general well-being. And sometimes talking and writing maybe things will help, right? So we can really learn from our kids. And one thing about parenting tip as a bonus point is that ask your kids to name their feelings, right? So just name it. So, you know, why are you sad, right? Just name, this is you know, if someone comes in, if one of your children and says, well, you know, I feel really sad. Okay, so name it to me. Give a particular name of that particular feeling, right? And if you give a name to it, then they can probably associate more about this particular feeling later on, and they keep on remembering that feeling, and they can associate why they went wrong, and also try to talk to them about how you can change that feeling, how you can change that label. Remember that label that you've given them, that name, how you can change it to something better, right? And have that conversation, that chat with them. Finally, a child knows who to run to and depend for all that they have, right? And this is an interesting one, because a child, if they're in fear, or if they want to say something, they just go run, mama, baba, and things like that. What we can learn from this is that as adults, who do we go back to if in everything, right? And of course, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As adults, we need to also go back to someone, right? And that is the Almighty, right? And we are also dependent. We have to be dependent on someone, and that is the Almighty. If you're in trouble, right? If you feel like you need to talk to someone, right? And you don't have the people with you to talk to, then go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As we said yesterday as well, go to the garden, at home, do sujood. He's always closer to you than your jugular vein, which is right here, right? Don't cut Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from yourself. So children, they run to us and they teach us that they can run to someone. Who do we run to? We run to the Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, I just want to do a quick poll before I finish. Inshallah, I've gone more than my time. And the question here today is that, have you experienced any of the points raised today with your children? Now, be honest and frank. Any of the 6 points, have you experienced that with your kids? And have you actually learned from it? Have you learned from your kids with these particular points or not? Right? It'd be interesting to find out, rather than, we always want to do parenting, but have we actually learned from our kids, and specifically these points that we have mentioned today? So if you can just say yes or no, or if you're unsure, just say you're unsure as well. And if you don't have any kids, you don't need to vote. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you kids. Of course, you have to get married first before you have kids.
So yeah, the poll is launched now. Already 2/3 have answered in a very short time. Just let's get the rest to answer, please. Only a handful of you left. Okay, I'm going to end it at 80%. I don't think there's any necessity to do any more than that, because you'll see why.
That's fine. Oh, a lot of them unsure. Oh, okay. That's so no one said no. Okay, so yes, brilliant. 52%. Unsure, not relevant. That's absolutely fine as well. So, inshallah, maybe you've taken 1 or 2 of the lessons, or maybe other than the 6 points we have mentioned. Inshallah, these can be used further to learn, to be used, so that we can learn more, inshallah, from our kids. Finally, as I did yesterday as well, I want to give some quarantine rules. This is a bit outside the topic, but still about our children, right? And some quarantine rules with our kids. Number 1 is dad's help with the kids is not fair, right? Yesterday I picked on the dads as well. I picked on the husbands, right? Now I'm picking also on the husbands and the dads, right? It's not fair. You just leave it on the mother just to do everything with the kids, all the homework, the online homework. The mother cannot be a teacher, cannot be a housemaid, cannot be a cook, do the washing, everything else, and also a wife and a mother, all at the same time, right? It's impossible. So please, dads, help. Don't just lock yourself in that room. Do come and help with whatever you can with the kids, and do some homework maybe with them. It's really good to establish a routine. I'm sure a lot of you have already established a routine. One of the sisters that I spoke to recently in Manchester, amazingly, she makes her kids wear uniform every day of the school, right? That's brilliant. I can never do that with my kids. I told them, actually, I said, no way. But mashallah, you might have better discipline than I have. So establish a routine. Wake up, do this, work, maybe a bit of break time. Give them a bit of more freedom time. Maybe a bit of TV time as well. That's okay, inshallah. Make them help with the chores. There's a really interesting study, a longitudinal study that Harvard University did, and they said, they found out, one of the stuff they found out is that children who help with the chores of the house actually develop to be successful people in the future, right? So make them do vacuuming. I've made my kids vacuum, right? Cooking. My kids, maybe I can show you now, right? They cooked both yesterday. They made one of them made a cake, the 8-year-old, and one of them made brownies, the other one, right? Tasted amazing, honestly. Inshallah, make them cook, right? Don't say no. Of course, they have to be age appropriate. If you've got a two-year-old, you don't want them to use a knife. And number 4, which is the most important, parents, chill. Give your kids a bit of space. Don't be too attached, right? Remember al-malu wal-banun, right? Just take a bit of a breather. Maybe let them be a bit naughty, right? If the kids are listening, stop listening, right? But maybe make them, kids are kids. They need to run around. They need to scream. They need to do mistakes sometimes so they can learn, right? I know it's so difficult. I know, honestly, right? I have kids as well. But sometimes you just got to let go and pick your fights. Sometimes petty things, just let them go. If they break something, let it go, right? But importantly, of course, you've got to discipline them. Absolutely with discipline. But you've got to chill a bit. And when they go to sleep, try to relax, rewind. Perhaps do this introspection, talk to Allah, especially during these holy nights. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Oh, no. Wait. Sorry, I haven't finished. What a clown. I haven't finished the homework for next week, right? It's good.
We're running out of time. We're running out of time, Sheikh.
Yes, I know. I'm very sorry. I thought I finished, but no. So for next week, it will take half a minute. Next week, inshallah, there's 2 homeworks we got to do. I'll do them as well. Is list 3 things you love about your spouse and chat about it. We talked about this yesterday, the love chat. And also list 3 things you can personally learn from your children. Please do them for next week, Saturday. Thank you. Ma'asalama.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, so just a message for Dr. Ali Al-Hilli there.
Yes. Oh, wait, happy birthday. Oh, thank you, but it's not today, it's next month.
For next month, inshallah. Okay, so now we go on to the Q&A session. For this, I would like some interactivity. MashaAllah, we have more attendees today than yesterday. So I would like to see people putting their hands up and getting involved. I will start naming people. So if you are... you can save me the hassle and save yourself the hassle. We have some Naqawis on there. We have some Tayyars. We have more than one Hilli on here today, mashallah. So can we get some interaction? Raise your hand and get involved. This is supposed to be an interactive session. Mashallah, the first person. Oh, she seems to have lost the interest. Okay, so if not, I will go on to the questions in the list. You talked about children relying on their parents, and as adults we need to turn to the Almighty. How do we give our emotions of sadness, worry, stress to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to calm our anxieties and feel the embrace and comfort of Allah?
How do we give our emotions of sadness, worry, stress to Allah to calm our anxieties? Well, I mean, I guess this is a slightly different topic because it's about how can we try to get relief from all the anxiety and the sadness and whatever worry, stress that we might have, maybe because of the children that, they put that on us. Well, if you haven't spoken about, or if you haven't listened to the lectures last week, the Saturday, Sunday, please do listen to them. We talked about spiritual introspection, right? And spiritual introspection, we talked about the difference between at-tafakkur and tadabbur. We got to do that. Please go back to it and hear. And we got to do, the path to self-discovery, which is al-musharata, al-muraqaba, and al-muhasaba and al-muaqaba, possibly. So with all these things, once you go back to and do introspection, self-discovery, self-awareness, become that particular individual that goes back to the self, we can find out what is actually going on inside the self, right? And perhaps relieve certain anxieties. But more in the present moment, what you can do is honestly go on sujood, right? Pray to Allah, cry to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during this holy night. Maybe when the children go to sleep, if you have any children, etc., at night, especially the night, don't sleep, at early, right? If you can, of course. I know some people might be working in the morning, wake up early, but try to stay at least till 1 o'clock maybe, right? And obviously you got to wake up for Fajr, don't forget. But go and pray Salatul Layl, Salatul Layl, Salatul Layl. This is the words of the Prophet. Pray Salatul Layl in prostration. Try to go in prostration, specifically try to go in prostration and cry to Allah. Just talk to Allah, right? And say what's inside you, right? And of course, we've talked so much about mindfulness, meditations, managing the thoughts. All of these will help, and breathing techniques will help relieve anxieties.
Okay. Right. So if we don't get any more questions, then I am going to close early today to give everybody a chance to go and prepare their iftar. But I'm sure there's people on here who have questions regarding children, upbringing of children, and there's a lot of good discussions to be had. So I'm asking for, Nurjis, there's a sister called Nurjis on here. She's put her name up a couple of times. So I'm going to allow her to talk. Go ahead, sister. Sister Nurjis Al-Musawi? No? Okay. Anybody else want to get involved?
I mean, I think it's important.
We have an vote. We have somebody. Brother Hashim, go ahead.
Salam. Can you hear me?
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, thanks. Really good couple of days of points, all spot on, with my personal experience as well. I think point number 6 as well was really good in terms of, if you want to link it to Allah, in terms of especially the baby stage, when the child is completely dependent on the parent, everything, and in every aspect. And when they continue crying, they know they're going to eventually get the help from the parent. And that's something that we, kind of forget, that we have that opportunity as well with Allah, and myself as well. You completely forget that. We should have that mindset of the baby, have completely dependent.
Absolutely. No, yeah.
And maybe another point in terms of upbringing. What's your opinion on technology and how much the kids should, usually when we want to chill, we just chuck the phones to them because there's, you want a break, but we try and avoid technology as much as possible. But what's your opinion on that?
Well, I mean, if you're going to chuck the phone on them, then make sure you don't give them obviously access to everything, but you give them something educational to see. There's lots of cartoons that are educational. I don't know how old your kids are. How old are your kids?
5 and 2, 6 and 2. 6
and 2. So there's lots of these alphabets. I don't know if you're interested in teaching them Arabic as well. So there is alif, ba, ta stuff in terms of cartoons, and it's got a bit of halal songs, inshallah, and all these things. So if you're gonna chuck the phone, chuck it with a bit of that sounded like music. No, I don't mean that. I meant chuck it with something educational that they can see. And of course, sometimes they gotta see Peppa Pig, But my daughter sees Peppa Pig, and yes, I tell her this is khanzir. It's not halal khanzir, but she doesn't care. But but sometimes Peppa Pig says nice things. She learns. She says Peppa Pig does this, Peppa Pig. So maybe you can get some educational stuff from these things. But what I say is that if you gotta chuck the phone, only if you have to chuck the phone, chuck it, but let it be something educational. And by the way, have you heard of, inshallah, in the future, have you heard of Family Link?
No.
Inshallah, you'll need Family Link in the future. That's made by Google. It's an app made by Google that basically, inshallah, in the future, whoever has a phone, a kid has a phone, you can monitor everything they do through your phone. Yeah, so you can switch off the phone, unlock the phone, so they can't unlock the phone at all. you can lock it anytime you want and unlock it. You can allow which apps they can see and which apps they can't see, download, and which they don't. You can put a time limit, say half an hour a day, 1 hour a day, whatever you feel like, and track them wherever they are, and it's free. Family Link is brilliant, right? For anyone who has a teenager maybe, or someone who has a child has a phone, right? You can, and maybe you want to give them a phone at home, but also limit them to 1 hour. You say, here's a phone, but use it responsibly for 1 hour. But you can block a lot of the sites. You can block YouTube, you can block Facebook, block Instagram. Just give them one app to see, and, give them a bit of responsibility maybe. All depends on how you feel with your kids.
Okay, so mashallah, we've actually had several questions come in. People were it seems stocking them up and ready to go. So what we want is, but what I will do is I will give priority to those who raise their hands. So there's going to be, I think we've only got time for a couple of questions. So if you do want to ask a question, then I'm going to encourage you or try and bribe you to get involved by putting your hand up and getting involved in the conversation. And we will go to the next question now. So, any recommendations for books to read in preparation for upbringing children, for bringing up children?
Yeah, there are plenty of books. There is a book that says something along the lines of it escaped my head, sorry, but there are lots of really interesting books. I can send all those people who have given their emails, who have registered. Inshallah, I can compile all the list of all the parenting books, and inshallah,
if you can get the list, actually mention it in the next program on Saturday to make sure that whoever's asked, you turn up for that Saturday event. Okay. Yes. So the books will be mentioned at the next event, inshallah.
There aren't a lot of Islamic parenting books. There are some, but there aren't a lot of parenting Islamic books. So it's something to work on, I think.
Okay, right. There's two here which are pretty much the same: teenage kids and advice on adolescent kids. Obviously, this is a very contentious issue. Anything just brief you can mention in there?
Well, I'm not really sure what the question is, but generally speaking, of course, you can also learn from teenagers. One thing I tell you of my experience with my teenager, she's nearly 13. On Eid Day, if Eid is on the 24th of May, she'll be exactly 13. Happy birthday to her as well. And she sometimes, tells us, look, you're too stressed out. She comes and tells us, you're too stressed out. Just take a bit of a break, chill a bit, And sometimes we don't see that. We don't see that in us. So they give us some sort of feedback into how we are acting during the day. So and there is obviously a whole load of challenges comes with teenagers as well. Mostly the phone, and mostly about whether they go out in social media or you don't allow them to go out on social media, how much restrictions. Sometimes they say, just let me free, I can trust me, but how much can you actually trust them? I think I don't think I know all the answers. I think there needs to be a community effort to try to come together and see how we can, with the 21st century problems and challenges, right, that we can come together to try to find solutions to them. And number one is about phones and social media and mostly Instagram, mostly Instagram. And number two, about self-image. Should I actually lose weight? Should I not lose weight? And you go out, and of course, social media also affects this with all the models and the bodybuilders and stuff like that. Bodybuilders like me and stuff, and Hassan. So it's difficult. It's difficult.
Okay. I'm going to ask one more question, and I'm going to give anyone who wants to get involved in between this question. This will be the last one I ask, unless we have a follow-up question on the mic. So, I guess this is this related to?
Yeah,
This
let
isn't
me
related
answer
to
the
children.
Salatul Layl. Salatul
Yeah,
Layl.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I want to keep it to the topic, but go on.
Yeah,
We'll let this one go.
I didn't say Salatul Layl is only good to read full. Did I say that? I can't remember. I said this. Salatul Layl, of course, you can recite only if you don't have time. You can recite, or you're busy or whatever. You can recite only al-witr, which is 1 ruk'ah. You can recite only shaf' and witr. Shaf' is 2 ruk'ahs and witr is 1, so that's 3. Or if you have time, beautiful, especially during these holy nights, recite the 11. So you can, yes, of course, it's okay to read 1 or 2 parts of the salah. Seems overwhelming? Absolutely. If it's overwhelming for you, then please, at least it's better if you pray 1 or 2 rather than not praying at all. Please organize talk related to all the children. Inshallah, helps parents who are going a lot these days, or going through a lot. Okay, inshallah, we aim to inshallah, I will try. There's so much to do, but you see, I'm ignoring my kids as well, honestly. As I gave you the example of my daughter today, it upset me that I ignored her. But inshallah, I'll make it up for her.
Inshallah. Okay, thank you all for the attending today. We look forward to seeing you next Saturday, inshallah. Remember to fill out the survey. I can't stress how important this survey is. It is important to the next generation and the generations after that as well. We are looking to use this data that we gather for really changing the way the community receives its services and how we can benefit people and benefit ourselves. So please do complete the survey. It's there in the chat. 7 o'clock next week, obviously, yeah, you're going to attend. But between now and then, spread this survey around. MashaAllah, there's 30 attendees left. There was over 40 before. There was 42, 43. So, if you do register, please make sure you get others to register and attend. And also, please complete the survey one last time. So I will now end with Allah's salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
Don't forget us in your dua, inshallah. Ma'as salam.
Ma'as salam.